Welcome to the Shark Tank and the fourth marking period. Over the next several weeks, you are going to be working on a project that takes you through the various stages of developing your own business or product. We're rolling out stage one today. You're going to have two important components to complete. This first component is focused on the vocabulary. After this, you need to work on the entrepreneur profile assignment. So let's get started. Now remember, we're looking at the show Shark Tank and modeling our project after that. So it might be important to know that the show involves an entrepreneur that goes on and presents their business or their idea or their product to a panel of celebrity investors known as the Sharks. And the entrepreneur is hoping to get at least one of these sharks to make a major financial commitment or investment into the potential product to then make it successful and generate lots of money. So, in order to look at the vocabulary, we're going to look at one of the most well-known Shark Tank products. And Scrub Daddy sponges are the second most profitable product that the show has turned out. If you're curious, the number one most profitable product is the Bombas Socks Company. But let's move forward. You're going to get an unofficial business dictionary today. So let's start our Shark Tank vocabulary. Our first term has already been mentioned, entrepreneur. And that's a person who organizes and operates a business, or if they have more than one, businesses. Remember, we're using Scrub Daddy as our example to help explain the terms. So for Scrub Daddy, our entrepreneur is Aaron Krause. Aaron Krause graduated with a degree in psychology from Syracuse University, but he did not go on to work using that specific degree. Instead, he ended up after college working for a car detailing company. What he did was work on cleaning cars, and he often had to use sponges or buffer pads that he really wasn't satisfied with. So he now, as a creative person, got the idea that he wanted to make a sponge that fit his needs. And so that's where the idea for Scrub Daddy was really born. What he did first was create a buffing pad, and there was actually a whole company that went with that first. So Scrub Daddy is his second company, but it's much, much more successful. When he went on the show, he did get one of the sharks to invest in his company. And the shark that invested in him is Lori Greiner. This is Lori. But Aaron is our entrepreneur. Which word best describes Aaron Krause as a risk-taking business owner and organizer? Is it investor, entrepreneur, shark, or minnow? The next term that we need to understand is sweat equity. That is the unpaid labor employees and entrepreneurs put into a project. That means that you're putting in time and effort, the sweat, to build value, the equity, in a company, and it may not pay off right away. So that's why we call it unpaid labor. A lot of times people are putting in very long hours and doing a lot before they ever make a dollar. So let's look at our example. Remember, we're thinking about the Scrub Daddy. So in 2006, Aaron worked on cars and he decided he needed a better sponge. The next year, he developed a yellow scrubber. But no matter what he did, no other car detailing companies would buy it, even though he traveled all over and spent a lot of time and effort trying to convince them. That's some of his sweat equity already. Then, in 2008, 3M, you might know them as the Post-it note company, the Scotch tape company. They make a whole lot of things. They bought the company he worked for, and they took everything from that company except some old boxes of his yellow scrubbers. They just left them behind. Fast forward to 2011. Aaron was cleaning his patio furniture outside in his yard, and he really wasn't happy because what he was using was scratching the paint off his furniture. So then he remembered about his yellow scrubbers, and he tried to use them. It turned out they did a great job and they didn't damage the paint. So now he started thinking about them again, and he started planning how he could be more successful. In 2012, Aaron's product was named, and he contacted many sources to gain publicity. He even went on QVC, which is a home shopping network on television. That same year, he applied to go on Shark Tank, and after 3 more months of auditioning, he made it. So look at this. This is all his sweat equity. He hasn't made any money off of the Scrub Daddy so far. That's 6 years. Fast forward to 2014. Now the company grew too big for its factory, and he had to find an even bigger one. That same year, Scrub Daddy was named the most successful product from Shark Tank by 2020, which is a TV show. 2016, the brand and company got a new logo, and they wanted to appeal to even more people and include new products. 2017, the company now had 12 products, and when they invented their dish wand, it sold out instantly. In 2018, Scrub Daddy had its first commercial on TV. If you remember it or go search YouTube, think about the fish waffle and the mud ball. And finally, the company continues to be really successful and invent new products. You can find them in your local supermarkets. You might even have them in your house. So all of these things that happened before 2014 and 2012 when he went on Shark Tank, all of these things here, those were his sweat equity. What word is best defined as the unpaid labor employees and entrepreneurs put into a project? Is it volunteerism, charity, internship, or sweat equity? Next, we're going to talk about patent. A patent is a government license that protects original ideas. Scrub Daddy is a patented product, meaning that it is protected by law. Other people might try to create similar products, but they're fakes, they're frauds, they're imposters. And Scrub Daddy, the company, could actually sue this spongeoutlet.com if the design was too similar to one of their products that's protected by patent. An inventor will file documents with the United States government to ask for a patent when they develop something new. As long as it's an original idea and it's not copying something else, even by accident, the government will grant them a patent that protects them from anyone else copying or taking their unique ideas. It allows the inventor to get their business started and to make money based upon their own creativity and efforts. So a patented product is something that's protected and an original idea, whereas something that's trying to copy it is an imposter. Not good. What do we call the government license that protects an original idea? Is it a patent, a file cabinet, an ownership certificate, or a driver's license? Our next term is distribution. That's the process of making a product available for purchase by dispersing it through the market, which involves transportation, packaging, and delivery. In fact, there's a bit more to it than that. So your product, which we've been talking about, the Scrub Daddy sponge, starts with the supplier, meaning the place where the material comes from. Then it travels to the manufacturer, the factory, where they're cutting it, making sure it's the right size, shape, that it's passing the quality assurance test, it's turning out what they want it to be. Then it's going into our shipment or logistics. If you're in materials handling, you should know all about this. After that, it goes to the retailer, which is where it's sold. And then finally, it lands in the hands of the shoppers, the consumers, people like us. So distribution takes a product from its very basic creation all the way to the household product at your fingertips. Which of the following is not part of the distribution chain? The supplier, the manufacturer, the litigator, or the retailer. Our next term is licensing. Licensing is a business arrangement in which one company gives another separate company permission to manufacture its product for a specified payment. Now, for example, in 2017, Scrub Daddy did make a licensing agreement with a new business partner. So, if you're into cars or if you've ever had to wash a car, you may be familiar with Turtle Wax. It's a very popular brand of car wax. And what Turtle Wax wanted to do was make a sponge that was effective for cleaning a car but wouldn't damage the exterior paint on a car. So Turtle Wax paid Scrub Daddy to use their technology. That's why this sponge over here looks a lot like the Scrub Daddy sponge. They actually worked together. It was a collaboration. But in business, when you pay for that little bit of technology, we call it licensing. All right, so they made a new sponge for the Turtle Wax company, but it was really powered by Scrub Daddy, meaning that Turtle Wax paid Scrub Daddy to help them with their technology and the sponge and make a Turtle Wax sponge. That payment was part of a licensing agreement. If you're a sports fan, you might have a team hat or a team jersey. Maybe it's made by Nike or Reebok, but it's really with your team logo. That's another example of a licensing agreement. It's really just one company getting permission and paying another one to use some other part of that other company. So Turtle Wax paid Scrub Daddy to use the sponge technology, and that's called licensing. What is the best definition for licensing? Is it an agreement that allows one company to make products for another? A contract that sells licenses to businesses that don't have patents? A law that requires all entrepreneurs to apply for a business license before they start a company? Or a process that companies go through to open factories? Next, we're going to look at what a business model is. And a business model is a design for the successful operation of a business. It has to identify revenue sources, your customer base, products, and details of financing. We're going to talk about what all those words mean. So when Aaron went on Shark Tank, he had to provide a business model. He had to explain different parts of the Scrub Daddy company. And in our last slide, when we talked about sources of revenue, that really means how are you going to make money? You have to have a plan. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to. That's not okay. You have to really know what you're going to do and the steps you're going to take. Are you going to call certain stores? Do you have certain professional connections that can help you? Then on our last slide, we talked about a customer base. That means what are you going to do to gain customers? How are you going to make people buy your product? You can't just say, oh, they will. You have to really have a plan. You have to know. You have to base it on research. You have to talk about your product and how you're going to develop that product to make it the best it can be, or even if you're going to create other products similar to it in a family of products. So the Scrub Daddy sponge was his first product. He actually has a company now that has 12 different things. He has a dish wand, he has a shopping cart bag, he has a sponge caddy that goes in your sink, all kinds of things. So that has to be part of your business model. And lastly, you have to be able to explain how you're going to pay for the needs of your company. You can't just say, don't worry, we'll get it done. You have to pay rent if you have a factory. You have to pay workers. You might need insurance. You might need lawyers. And you have to have a plan of how you're going to pay for all of that. So once you have all of these things in place, and it does take a long time to make it, that is your business model. It's very formal and it takes a long time to develop, so you have to put a lot of thought and effort into it when you create a business model. What do we call the plan that explains how a company will explain and plan its sources of revenue, products, customer base, and financial information? Is it a business diary, a secret ingredient, a common sense plan, or a business model? Our next term is market value. This is the price a product would cost on the market. Its worth. So, your public perception, or what people think, affects market value. Here you have the Scrub Daddy sponges versus some traditional household sponges. Now, these sponges might cost $2 for a set of 4, and these cost $3.50 for only 2. So, if you're thinking of what you want to pay at the store, these cost less for more, and these cost more for half of that. So, how can they decide to give it that price? Is that smart? Well, if you think that this is a better product, you like it, it's got great commercials, so it convinces you to buy it, you might be willing to spend those extra dollars. In fact, Aaron went on an interview and he said he's comfortable charging $4 for his sponge if he could because he knows it's worth it and he thinks people would pay for it. So, market value, what's the main point here? If people want something more than the competition, they will pay more for it and they drive up its market value. So, if somebody's willing to pay for it, it's going to cost more. What is the term we use to describe the price you can charge for or the worth of a product? Is it the market value, supply and demand, sale price, or MSRP? Next is revenue. Revenue is the money or income that is earned, usually in a business. So revenue is all the money that you're bringing into a business. And as of January 2021, Scrub Daddy has made over $209 million in sales. We don't have to worry about how much they spend or how much they had to invest or anything like that. When we're talking about revenue, all we want to know is what are they bringing in? What have they made? So what is revenue? A nice name for a street, the money a business brings in, the government agency that collects taxes, or a movie with Leonardo DiCaprio. Our next term is profit. Profit is a financial gain, especially the difference between the amount earned and the amount spent in buying, operating, or producing something. So if we look here, you can break it down into a math sentence. Revenue minus expenses equals profit. So the Sponge Daddy in this store costs $3.49. It actually costs about $1 to make. So if you take $3.49 minus $1, every single sponge they sell is earning $2.49. So you take your revenue minus your costs, which are your expenses. It costs $1, it's an expense of $1, and then you have this profit, $2.49. Revenue minus costs equals profit. So how do we calculate profit? Is it costs plus investment equals profit? Is it revenue minus costs equals profit? Is it bank account equals profit? Is it profit minus expenditures equals profit? Our next term is the opposite. We just did profit, now we're going to discuss loss. So a loss is an amount of money lost by a business or organization, typically when the business has more expenses than earnings. And our example that we've been using, Scrub Daddy, is actually extremely successful, so we don't have an example of loss here. But what we will talk about is a business that did experience an extreme loss. So a loss would happen if the company starts to have negative financial events, meaning they are just having problem after problem. And literally, loss is losing money. So they might have more bills than revenue. Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus is a business that no longer exists. Circuses became very expensive to run. They had to pay the workers, they had to maintain a facility, they had to take care of the animals, they had to take care of them all year and for many years. They couldn't just, when the circus wasn't in action, just let the animals go. They had travel costs, they had insurance. If anybody sued them, they had to pay that, and they have lawyer fees. And then people stopped going to circuses for many reasons, so they weren't making money. So unfortunately, this circus had an extreme amount of financial loss and it went out of business. True or false? Entrepreneurs want to generate losses in their businesses. Okay, and then we have the break even. This is the point at which total revenue equals total costs or expenses. So this is not a profit and this is not a loss. It's in the middle. So this is when your profit is equal to your loss. You're not losing money and you're not making money. You're just at zero. Explain what it means to break even. Elevator pitch. This is a brief persuasive speech that you use to spark interest in what your organization does or is selling. So Aaron went on Shark Tank, we know, and after walking through these doors here, you get 2 minutes or less to pitch your product. And when you pitch something, that means you're trying to sell it. You're trying to create as much interest as you possibly can. In order to do that, he had to speak quickly. He had to make sure that he chose really great words to drive his point home, and he had to do something to show how wonderful the Scrub Daddy sponge was. So you see he had a lot of props here. He had these kettle weights that he used to smash the sponge. He had a tea kettle with boiling water that he showed how warm water affected it. Then he had back here a pitcher of ice water showing how cold water affected it. These were burners that were dirty that he scrubbed clean in front of them. He had pots and pans he scrubbed clean, all kinds of stuff. So as he talked about his business and his plan, he did demonstrations of all different types, and it was very effective. We call it an elevator pitch because you only have a short amount of time. Just like if you're riding an elevator, think about it. If you've ever gotten in one, you push the button, you wait a few moments, and then you're off. There might be somebody else in there with you that you don't know. Imagine that in that time in the elevator, you had to convince that person to believe in something. You would have to use all these tactics. That's why we call it an elevator pitch. Why do we call it an elevator pitch? Is it because entrepreneurs hated calling it a quick, give me all the info as best you can, as fast you can pitch? Is it because we didn't have escalators when people first developed this saying? Is it because the situation could go up or down? Or is it because you only have a short amount of time to share your idea, like riding an elevator with someone? Next is tagline. A tagline is a catchphrase or slogan, especially as used in advertising. You might have some already popping into your mind that you know go with specific companies. For Scrub Daddy, their tagline is America's favorite sponge. You might be familiar with Nike, Just Do It. That's another extremely well-known, famous tagline. So taglines are slogans or catchphrases that go with a product to help make you remember them, and they also will have something to do with the company that makes it sell itself to you. So America's favorite sponge, well, that tells you the whole country loves it. When we talk about the Nike Just Do It, they're trying to motivate you to do something, and it's an athletic company. So what is another term for a catchphrase or slogan? Is it tagline, nickname, royalty, or Scrub Daddy? Okay, so that wraps up the vocabulary portion of what you need to do for week 1. But please don't forget these 4 important things. First, you have 2 weeks to complete this work, so it is a little bit more work than you've been used to, but you have extended time. Make sure you're putting your very best effort forth. Take time, take a break and go back to it. You can take a break in Edpuzzle and you can take a break in the entrepreneur profile that you're about to work on. Speaking of that, you need to go back and complete the entrepreneur profile assignment in the week 1 topic in your Google Classroom. Please go start to do that. Third, you're going to have to think about a product that you want to try to sell. It's not this week, but it's coming up. So start brainstorming, do some research, do some Googling. Think of something that you would want to try to make your own business around. And last, you guys are almost done and you're doing fantastic. The fourth marking period is here and you guys are more than capable. You've got this under control. Finish strong. Good luck, and if you need help, please get in contact with me. Have a great day.